So today we're going to talk about the wealth effect. Now, what is the wealth effect? So if I earn $1 and I spend $1, so that's not a good situation. 80% of Americans live basically paycheck to paycheck. One paycheck miss and they get in serious financial difficulty. So they're in trouble. They're not going to spend so much. So what do we need to back them up, make them feel good? We take this. This is a worthless, pointless Lego block plastic junk. But I value it at $1 billion. Now I feel great. And I own this block. I feel great. I don't mind, getting one paycheck and spending one paycheck because I have $1 billion worth of wealth locked in here. This is the real estate market. This is the stock market. This is the 401ks of Americans. And because things have blown up, their assets, their wealth effect, they feel confident to go out into the market. They go, so let's say I lose my job and I lose my paycheck. I still got $1 billion worth of assets. I'm okay. I can live on that for quite a while. Liquidate it, move a small house, whatever. I'm okay. And it's gone up so much. I only paid 1 million and now it's worth 1 billion. I'm laughing, mate. And I feel I can spend more. The number two of the wealth effect is they basically use it as an ATM. They paid 1 million. It's now worth 1 billion. They take a loan against that 1 billion and then they can spend it. And they feel great because, hey, it's gone up. And even more, think about it. They paid 1 million. So they're paying the mortgage off for that 1 million, but it's worth 1 billion. They take a loan against that. They can wipe off that mortgage pretty quickly and still spend. And they still have a 1 billion asset. And by the time they're even going to pay it back, it's probably worth 2 billion. So it just can continue. And they use their assets as an ATM. So that is the beauty of the wealth effect. It makes them feel good and it allows for spending. And remember, our whole economy is a Ponzi scheme, right? A Ponzi scheme requires new money to come in the whole time, not just the same money being in there. It requires always new money. It requires people to keep spending and not just the spending that they did before. They need to spend more than they did every year. They need people to spend more every year. Otherwise, the whole thing collapses. So therefore, we need these asset prices to increase in order for people to spend more. Why? Because wages are stagnant and it's not going anywhere. So this is what is needed to keep things going. Now, the problem is, let's take China. China said, we got a problem in our housing market. While in America, an average house is basically 10 salaries. In the UK, it's 20 salaries. In Israel, it's 40 salaries. In China, it's 120 salaries. It's insane, the housing market there. It has, people think, what has increased China's amazing rise? It's not producing these plastic Lego bricks or the headphones. 80% of their growth is from property and property speculation and the increase in value in property. Even now in 2022, 25% of their growth will be due to property and speculation in property rather than 10% or even less than that in America. So property is a massive component in China. So the government said enough is enough. People aren't getting married. People aren't, people are refusing to leave their parents' houses. We need to stop this. So they had the Evergrande debacle. They clamped down on their property builders, and it caused a collapse. Obviously, Evergrande defaulted. All the shares are junk now. They've gone down a lot. But then they realized, whoa, no one's buying. One sec, our economy is a Ponzi scheme. We need more money the whole time, but yet no one's spending and no one wants to buy property, and therefore the whole economy collapses. Stock market as well, they did the same thing. They investigated Alibaba, they fined them for monopoly practices. They did the same to Didi. All their shares have collapsed. My Alibaba shares, don't even go there. Everyone's collapsed in those things. They clamped down on them and they said, we're going to take over. Oh, but now your whole economy falls apart. There's no more innovation. There's no more new hirings. There's no more salary increases. They control your economy. You cannot just collapse them anymore. They're not a little mum and pup shop. They are your economy. So when you went and you tried to clamp down on the property and you tried to clamp down on the big tech monopolies, which are JD, Alibaba, and Tencent, when you try to clamp down on them, everything collapses. And so we had yesterday Didi, the taxi app for China, the Uber, but more than Uber. Uber is 50% of American taxis. Didi is 90% of Chinese taxis. They are a monopoly. There's no reason to end a monopoly investigation in a monopoly unless if you don't do that, the whole thing collapses. And so they stopped. They said, we're going to let you be a monopoly. All you Alibaba, all of you, do whatever you want. We've given out the property, but they lowered interest rates. They increased the lending out to these things. They propped them up essentially, stopped them actually going bankrupt because they're obviously bankrupt. Because again, they're relying on a plastic block to be worth $1 billion on their balance sheet. The second you make that value $100 million, they're officially bankrupt. Their liabilities are greater than their assets. That's the problem. And it domino effect throughout. So the West, the US, they didn't even bother doing any clamping down on their tech giants because they know this is going to happen. Same with property, they're just going to leave it. So the prediction is this: quantitative easing will reoccur by the end of the year because they have to. Property will not collapse. The real estate bubble is not popping. They will do anything. They are fake interest rate rising in the face of 0.75%, in the face of 8.5% inflation. Absolute absurdity. Naturally, they're still artificially keeping it low because they cannot let it rise because the whole thing is a Ponzi scheme. And so that is the power of the wealth effect. We are currently now in a wealth effect bubble. They have to keep it propped up. They have to keep your plastic block worth $1 billion. They have to keep it all going. If not, it's Armageddon.